Good Morning America, election endgame. The last hours before the final votes. Vice President Kamala Harris looking to mobilize and energize voters.
We have an opportunity in this election to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump trying to keep us divided and afraid of each other.
Bringing in the star power. Donald Trump with his own flurry of campaign stops, looking to convince voters he's the right choice.
If I win, you are 3 days away from the best jobs, the biggest paychecks, the brightest economic future that the world has ever seen.
The schedule ahead for the candidates as they make their final pitches to the public.
Crucial battleground states, a look at where the election can be decided. Early voting, shattering records. The strategies for the campaigns looking for last-minute support. GMA's political team breaking down the scenarios for success. The pivotal states where it may all be decided, but will we know the winner Tuesday night?
Election security, the FBI warning about videos circulating on social media making false claims about ballot fraud. Who's said to be behind them and what to look out for, plus new numbers from our latest ABC News Ipsos poll, a look at the biggest political divisions. We have ABC teams across the country this morning as Americans choose their next president.
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
Most of the country waking up a little refreshed, I hope, with that extra hour of sleep with a return to standard time. So we hope that you all got your rest, because we are now just 2 days away from Election Day 2024 with over 75 million Americans already casting their ballot.
Yes, and as the candidates deliver their closing arguments and sharpen their attacks on each other, we have brand new polling out this morning showing the race is a dead heat with real signs of discontent among voters.
Vice President Harris and former President Trump both laser focused on the battleground states in the final days of the campaign. We have team coverage of these critical final hours. So let's start with the Trump campaign and ABC's Mary Alice Parks, who is in Charlotte, North Carolina for us. Mary Alice, good morning to you.
Yeah, Janae, good morning. It was noticeable to me that the majority of voters at former President Trump's events yesterday said that they had already voted. According to the state, more than half of registered voters here in North Carolina voted early. Now, Trump, for his part, talked a bit about his legacy, how he would be sad that the campaign was coming to a close, and he even joked about how and where he might rather be. With just 48 hours to go until Election Day, former President Trump focused on the one battleground state he won 4 years ago, North Carolina.
We can't take a chance of losing the great state of North Carolina.
Trump, who has been struggling with women voters, repeating that he wants to protect women, especially in the suburbs, and saying again that he is the father of IVF treatment, though he also is taking credit for his role in overturning Roe v. Wade, which led to the attempt to restrict the fertility treatment.
I consider myself to be the father of fertilization.
His whirlwind campaign schedule also detoured to Virginia, a state Democrats hope is safely blue. There, saying that people have called him one of the greatest presidents of all time.
They said he's the greatest president that we've ever had. I said, does that include George Washington and Abraham Lincoln? Yes, sir. It does. I said, that's okay, I'll take it.
But before millions of Americans even head to the polls, Trump disparaging this election, suggesting he will only lose if it is unfair, and repeating baseless claims Democrats cheat.
If God came down and agreed to be our vote taker for one day, just one day, God would only need 1 second, actually. If he came down and he was going to be our vote taker.
Trump has never won the popular vote. He told his crowd in Virginia he hopes to this year, but then he again hedged and made false claims about election interference.
Let them cheat, because that's what they do. They do it very well. They're very professional. But I think we have a really good chance to win the popular vote.
In the final days of this race, Trump also musing about being somewhere else.
I'll go to work, Mike. It's off to you. And I didn't need this. I didn't need to be with you tonight. I could have been at a gorgeous beach and lots of places.
His speech is primarily focused on his dark, anti-immigrant message. Trump sharing emotional stories from family members who had loved ones killed by undocumented immigrants, promising to launch a mass deportation operation if elected, and inviting members of the Roanoke College swim team on stage who spoke out against transgender women competing in women's sports.
We won't be changing your children's gender with their transgender craziness.
Now, I will say there is a downside to Trump's busy schedule. He was running hugely late, well over an hour to each of his events yesterday. The crowds were smaller, and by the last event, the former president did seem to have a lot less energy. He even joked about whether he should do half of his speech. But another busy day today. He starts in Pennsylvania, then comes back here to North Carolina, and ends in Georgia. Gio?
All right, Mary Alice, thank you so much. And now let's go to the Harris campaign back in Michigan today. After also campaigning that blue wall state on Friday, ABC's Selena Wang is in Detroit with the latest on this. Good morning, Selena.
Good morning, Gio. Vice President Harris is blitzing through the battlegrounds in her final push to get out the vote. She rallies here in Michigan today after making a surprise appearance on Saturday Night Live. She's pulling out all the stops as her campaign comes to a close.
Are we ready to win?
Overnight, Vice President Kamala Harris in North Carolina making her final push in the crucial southern battleground.
We have an opportunity in this election to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump trying to keep us divided and afraid of each other.
Harris making her economic plan front and center.
And at the top of my list is bringing down the cost of living for you. That will be my focus every single day as president. I will give a middle-class tax cut to over 100 million Americans. I will enact the first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging on groceries.
Tearing into Trump in battleground Georgia.
This is someone who is increasingly unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance.
Harris hoping to sway moderate Republicans like this one.
What made you change your mind and vote for a Democrat for the first time?
I think what the Republican Party isn't the party I grew up with.
And the vice president making a surprise appearance overnight.
I'm live from New York and
Giving advice to herself, played by Maya Rudolph on SNL.
And I'm just here to remind you, you got this. Because you can do something your opponent cannot do. You can open doors.
The vice president poking fun at herself.
I don't really laugh like that, do I? A little bit.
On the trail, superstars John Bon Jovi
Take my hand, make it out swing.
and Alicia Keys firing up the crowd in battleground Pennsylvania.
Let me ask you, are we going back?
Joined by one of the most popular Democrats, former First Lady Michelle Obama.
Ready to elect the next president of the United States?
Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff casting his vote for Harris, saying, "I'll never forget this moment." Even President Biden returning to the trail in his hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania, to rally union workers.
You know, we've asked a lot of each other, you and I, unions and me. I'll ask you one more thing. I'm asking you your support for Kamala for 2 roles.
And ballots included on paper, meaning that they can be checked and rechecked or recount or whatever is needed. So with that, Homeland Security officials believe people can be confident and go out and vote and know that their vote will be counted. About those voting machines are not connected to the internet. All right, here. And let's bring in this week's co-anchor and ABC News Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Call and our deputy political director Avery Harper. Good morning to both of you. It's great to have you. John, let's start with you first here and how the candidates are making their closing arguments. What's the pitch that Trump is making here in the final day? It's a pretty basic one. He said things were better when he was president than they are now. And he said this at the beginning of every rally now. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? The crowd screams no. Now, to be clear, exactly 4 years ago, we were in the middle of a pandemic that had shut down our economy and thousands of people were dying. That's not literally what he means.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos starts right now.
2 days ago, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump made their final pitch.
We have an opportunity in this election to turn the page on on a decade of Donald Trump.
We must defeat Kamala Harris and stop her radical left agenda.
Opposing visions for America and the future of our democracy.
This is someone who is increasingly unstable. He is consumed with grievance. And the man is out for unchecked power.
They're grossly incompetent people, and they've destroyed our country. Our country is suffering.
Over $75 million already passed. Does the Harris win hinge on winning voters? Will Trump accept the results if he loses? We covered all this morning. The latest analysis, the final polls, reports from all the key battleground states, and our political team on what to watch for Tuesday night.
From ABC News, this is a special edition of This Week, Your Voice, Your Vote 2024. Here now, George Stephanopoulos.
Good morning and welcome to This Week. It is almost over. What comes next is anyone's guess. What we do know is this. No election since the Civil War has posed such a test of our constitutional system. Whether to accept election results and the peaceful transfer of power has never been on the ballot like this. The stakes in this election are as high as it gets. The differences between the candidates are as stark as it gets. And as we emerge from the final weekend, the polls suggest that this election is as close as it gets. Our team is here to cover it all. We begin with the closing arguments of the candidates. Perhaps it's fitting that the final week of this ugly presidential campaign began with garbage.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
The comedian at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally echoing Trump's take on America.
We're like a garbage can for the world. That's what's happened. That's what's happened, George. We're like a garbage can. It's the first time I've ever said that.
Kamala Harris pounced on that rhetoric.
He talks about America being the garbage can of the world, and just continuously, I think, demeans the character and nature of who we are.
But as she was delivering her closing message,
On day one if elected, Donald Trump would walk into that office with an enemies list. When elected, I will walk in with a to-do list.
a roadblock from President Biden, responding to the Trump comedian.
The only garbage actually floating out there is his supporters. His demonization seems unconscionable and it's un-American.
In Battleground, Wisconsin, Trump seized on Biden's words, accusing the president of calling Trump supporters garbage.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
But when Trump tried to close the gender gap with this,
I want to protect the women of our country. They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? They said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
it was Harris who counts.
He simply does not respect the freedom of women or the intelligence of women to know what's in their own best interest and make decisions accordingly. But we trust women.
Heading into the final weekend, Trump's rhetoric more dark.
She'll get overwhelmed, melt down, and millions of people will die. You're going to die.
Even appearing to suggest that fellow Republican Liz Cheney, now a Harris supporter, should face gunfire.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her.
They're showing you that.
See how she feels about
Wow.
it. You know, when the guns
They're
are
showing
trained
you
on
that.
her face.
Harris argued those attacks made Trump unfit for office.
Anyone who wants to be president of the
Angie,
United States
naka-receive ka o
violent rhetoric.
package.
It's clearly disqualifying.
November 1. Her campaign drew attention to Trump's Milwaukee rally Friday night.
MSG rally and all these other things. I don't think most undecided voters really lock in on that. They've gotten an opinion of Donald Trump. And if they're undecided today, that means they're not voting for him. So what he wants to do is to create this dark kind of picture to make them stay home. And what she needs to do, and has tried to do over the last week, is inspire those people to say, I can make a difference, a president can make a difference, please trust me. And the question is going to be, do those people stay perpetually undecided and just don't show up? Or do they come and go for Harris? Well, one thing I guarantee you, and with that 3760 fave on fave number, they're not voting for him. they're going to either vote for Harris or stay.
The other big thing, Donna, is who turns out in the end in greater numbers, women or men.
One that is so targeted with their TikTok ad that remember people now who are excited want to know how to vote. I had a long talk last night with Charlemagne the God. I mean, 4 hours.
You are so bad. Really great.
I mean, that's like a direct call.
Yeah.
Okay? And he's doing good. He's doing good, not just in terms of him, but the fact is, he said, I'm talking to people now who are so excited. But he closed on one note, and I think this is a note that a lot of people feel. He said, I've got to do this for my daughter. I think women understand what's at stake. They understand that this is a life and death decision. So I think you will see a really strong, robust turnout in election day.
And Mike Spears, big question for the Trump campaign. Can they turn out men, especially younger men, in greater numbers than ever before?
Well, look, the higher the turnout, the better it's going to be for Donald Trump. It's totally different this time than it's ever been in our party. We've never been like cheering for high turnout. You've got a 74% wrong track. I think that's a stunning number. We defy all the rules of gravity for Harris to win. But I would take us back to, the grainies that Don and I talk about a lot, which is this: we've got 2.5% of the people up there that are undecided. I agree with Chris, most of those people aren't going to vote. But if they're voting on the issues that Trump is trying to pound away on, which is, do you like where the price of stuff is today? The answer is no. Do you like what's happening on the border? The answer is no.
Do you want
the more that this race is about those two issues, the better it's going to be for Trump. What Harris is doing is talking to
that is not what voters heard from Donald Trump.
Here's what I concede. The 2.5% out there didn't hear any of that stuff. But the 2.5% are going to make a choice between how do they feel about this economy and whether or not they like Donald Trump's personality. For those people that are voting, that's the question. And I happen to believe that people put their family first, and if you put your family first in its own economy, I think things look good. Last thing, early vote and election day voting. Let's just look at the numbers. Early voting is down by 40%, which granted, it was 2020, but it was still really thin. For the Democrats to win in a state like right now, on election day, they would have to get 58% of the vote. The Democrats. They haven't done that in over 14 years. They're not going to win an election day. They will not win an election day.
Producing bulletproof glass to protect their workers. They're operating in security involving armed guards, barbed wire around their facilities where they will count the vote. And officials are very concerned that if it is a very close vote where the counting takes place over a series of days, that law enforcement officials will have to be at the ready. Maricopa County, for example, will even have a SWAT team available with me.
Also concerned about civil unrest.
Civil unrest, a number of governors are talking about having the National Guard be at the ready. The governor of Washington put out a statement.
Here they're talking about civil unrest.
So again, very tense moment for the country, although they do believe that voters can go and feel that they're very safe to cast their votes.
Final thoughts on that when we come back.